Well, welcome to our Weather Impacts Report, where we take a look at the top weather stories here in Georgia and around the nation. I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss. It has been a little bit over a week since severe weather rolled through the southeast and a tornado hit Dallas, Georgia. Families in Paulding County are still cleaning up after an EF1 tornado ripped through their neighborhoods last weekend. The storm stayed on the ground for 12 minutes, causing damage along an 11-mile area. But now one family is facing a different kind of storm after almost falling victim to a roofing scam. 11 Live Chase Howell spoke with them about how they were almost tricked at a time when they needed help the most.
Allison Burgess, along with her husband, 2 kids, and 3 dogs, have been forced to live in a friend's camper after a tree crashed into their home during Saturday night's twister that ripped through Paulding County.
Just a tight squeeze, but also just, I think, stressful for everybody, obviously, because it's not our home.
Allison Burgess says over 20 people claiming to be roofers bombarded them, not even 24 hours after the storm.
Every 5 minutes, 15 minutes, there was like a roofing company, and it was typically roofing companies coming in. And then finally, one came around, I think like twice, and my neighbor ended up having to shoo them off because I couldn't, my head wasn't able to be there anymore. There was so much going on.
Finally, they ended up going with the roofer someone referred to them. But after the company got the tree off the house, things started to get weird.
Apparently, your house should be boarded up, tarped, trees removed, gone, within a day, day and a half. And we were looking at 2.5 days, and he kept saying things like, they're on their way, and then they wouldn't show up. And then the next day, it was like, they're on their way, and then not showing up, so there's just debris everywhere. So there was a lot of stuff like that.
Needless to say, they got their insurance broker involved and thankfully were able to void the documents they signed with the company. Right now, Burgess says crews are having to fix the mistakes the original roofer made. And because of those mistakes, she says the majority of her clothes and furniture are ruined.
They're frauds, is what they are.
Jordan Yodis works at the Paulding County Sheriff's Office. He says there are 2 things you can count on during a storm. It will pass, and scammers will come next.
Vet these people, talk to your neighbors, find out what they've told them. If they told them something different than what they're telling you, again, it's probably not true. So we can't drive this message home enough. If it doesn't feel right, if your gut is telling you that it's not right, it's not right. Call somebody else or ask them questions.
Another tip Yodis has, don't give money up front. Reporting in Dallas, Chase Howell, 11 Alive News.
Well, the people of Paulding County are not the only ones that are still cleaning up. Arkansas residents are picking up the pieces after the severe storms rolled through Jackson County that same weekend. The city of Diaz was right in the path of an EF4 tornado with winds reaching close to 190 miles per hour. Whitney Thomas reports.
My family's lived here all my life. A lot of hard work that's done been done, it's gone back through and redone again.
Diaz, a small community full of families and homes that lasted for generations, is now damaged.
This house was surrounded. The front doors, they only got front doors of the house, surrounded by trees, and one little spot you could walk out in.
Friday night's tornado demolishing several houses and cars. Jimmy Hembry relieved to have lived through it, recalling it as a traumatic experience.
Just as soon as my feet hit the ground, it sounded like a locomotive coming, and it was just had to go.
Hembry able to evacuate, returning home to his roof missing and his front porch dismantled, an aftermath he wasn't prepared for. Rebuilding now a huge concern for the people of Diaz, some carrying lingering hurt, feeling forced to say goodbye to things and places that were dear to their hearts.
Pile in the ditch over there, that was a 16 by 30 bald eagle barn that sat right here.
Amy Weaver's grandmother left behind 3 barns, a storage unit and convenience store for her, things she never thought would end up in pieces. She's now taking the steps to move forward, the storm giving her a new appreciation for life.
Unless you have trouble, you don't know the power of God. He saved us.
Well, Nashville, Tennessee saw record rainfall on Saturday. According to the National Weather Service, the city got nearly 4 inches of rain, breaking the old record of nearly 3 inches set in 1875. The heavy rainfall led to rising water in low-lying areas and also shut down state and local roadways. Well, severe weather was not the main focus last week in Georgia. Fire weather was top of mind for many people. All weekend, we dealt with dry weather in Georgia. There were multiple red flag warnings across North Georgia, and these warnings are issued when weather conditions such as high winds, low humidity, and hot temperatures create an elevated risk of rapid wildfire spread. Sunday was a tense day for families in Floyd County as a wildfire forced evacuations and threatened homes. People were allowed to go back to their homes, but officials warned that they should use caution in the coming days. The wildfire sparked in a community just outside of Rome along New Rosedale Road. 11 Alive's Angelina Salcido was on the ground as fire crews worked to get control of the flames.
I've heard of things burning, but no, I hadn't seen anything like this.
Burning out of control. Fire crews dump water on a fast-moving wildfire in Armucci.
Got dispatched to a small fire behind a house, and then from there, because of the wind, it picked up and spread real quickly.
Roger Haggard, the battalion chief for the Rome Fire Department.
There was an evacuation set up.
As flames spread and jumped Highway 156, families were evacuated from homes that were threatened for their safety.
Somebody told us that there was a fire up here in the 600 block.
89-year-old Davis Brooks and his family blocked from getting home, but once they did,
you can see how close it was here.
This is a prime example of what firefighters have been dealing with all throughout the day. The wind has been carrying these embers and spreading the flames, causing the fire to jump around.
This was unburned, but I went and checked a couple of houses, came back, and it already crossed in a matter of 10 minutes, crossed and got on the other side of the road.
What does that tell you when you see the fire moving that quickly?
Well, for one, we got to get ahead of it to protect the exposures.
It took hours for Georgia Forestry to get a perimeter around the fire to contain it.
I feel very lucky because it got within 100 feet of the house.
While small hotspots still linger, Chief Haggard just hopes the wind doesn't shift.
There's a threat probably till it rains.
In Floyd County, Angelina Salcido, 11 Alive News.
Well, the fire risk has been ongoing in Florida. The 344 fire burned for more than 4 days last week. Firefighters in South Florida were working with a change in the weather forecast, which affected the direction and progression of the fire. Lorena Inklin has more from Florida City.
For the past 8 days, firefighters have been battling a fire in South Miami-Dade. It now has an official name, the 344 fire.
This is a larger fire than we normally expect. It's been an extremely dry season.
The Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office pushing out an alert to drivers that Card Sound Road remains closed in both directions. As of right now, US 1 is open, but we can expect on and off closures throughout the day. In other words, if you live or work in this area, you can expect delays as firefighters work to put out the flames. On Thursday night, the Florida Forest Service reported at least 2 instances where a private drone was flown into the fire zones.
That really can hinder firefighting efforts and put our firefighters and our communities at risk. So we need people to stay away with their drones.
2 new strike teams arrived yesterday and are already boots on the ground today. The Florida Forest Service working with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, spraying fire retardant, as well as attacking the flames by air.
Normally we are configured to hold 170 gallons in our Bambi bucket that we can use to fight the fire.
Thousands of fans are expected in Homestead starting today for the NASCAR Cup Series. So far, the races are on track and moving forward.
Well, a Jacksonville, Florida family is happy to be home and safe after narrowly escaping a wildfire while vacationing in the Florida Keys. Imagine seeing that from your window. Fire crews in South Florida are still battling a wildfire that shut down access roads to the Keys. Well, Oklahoma also dealt with the increased fire danger earlier this week. Crews battled wildfires in the state for several days. Check out this video of the fire burning a grassy area near Langston, Oklahoma. Winds and dry conditions are fueling the threat of fires across central and western parts of the state. Special planes called Super Scoopers have also been flown into to assist with firefighting efforts. John Hayes has more on those.
It's a sight likely giving many Oklahomans a chance to let out a giant sigh of relief.
There's been too much that's been burned now. Yeah, it's nice that we're able to put them out.
2 planes known as Super Scoopers providing some bird's eye assistance to battle this wall of fire in Logan County Monday. Pilots with hundreds of hours of experience making it almost seem effortless as we watched from the ground near Lake Arcadia. You can see them skimming the surface in seconds, picking up 1,400 gallons of water. McIntyre Law Chopper 4 followed the delivery and dropped to the fire line.
I know it's a lot of weight.
Mike McLennan is a private pilot.
I'm nowhere near that level, let me tell you.
He and his wife came to the lake to get close enough to grab a few shots.
What's so cool about these specific planes to you?
Well, with what they're able to do, and once they get that scoop of water and head up there, and the accuracy they have when they drop it on the fire.
News 4 talked to a spokesperson from Montana-based company Bridger Aerospace, which provided the planes. Mel Holtz says Bridger wanted to help Friday.
Unfortunately, due to the winds on Friday, we couldn't fly.
The damage we've shown you over the last few days has made it clear how much of a difference it could have made. But these planes won't be going anywhere until we're out of the woods.
We're there till the need is there, and until fire activity, calms down.
McLennan says he feels safer with them both in the air.
I'm just amazed at what they can do.
Well, people are now seeing the damage caused by the wildfires now that they're out. Cleveland, Oklahoma residents came to an area and came together after a neighborhood was turned to ash by those wildfires. Steph Manchin reports.
Mere days since the fires ripped through portions of the state, blackened grass and charred vehicles serve as a painful reminder of all that unfolded on March 14th. Beth Schmidt is having a hard time looking back.
It was horrifying. It was scary. The scariest thing in my life.
She lives in Cleveland and was right in the path of devastating flames that made their way into her community. Beth and her family were watching smoke billow in the distance all day Friday. But in just a 30-second period of Beth going inside her home, she says things changed rapidly.
And I went back on the porch and I felt this heat, but it was different heat. It wasn't like weather heat. It was like, I was like, what is that? Why is it so hot?
Of course, it was from the flames that had made their way into her backyard. Panic ensued as Beth and her husband tried to get all of their animals and children into the car and away from the fires.
Terrifying. Like, I don't know how I'm alive. Literally, I'm going to start crying because it's just trying to talk about it is bringing back memories.
Because she was surrounded by flames as she evacuated, Schmidt tells me she had very little faith that her home would still be standing when she returned. So you can imagine her surprise as she turned down her street, surrounded by rubble and debris, and found her home still standing strong.
Beth believes God had his hand on them, but so did their neighbors.
There was nothing they could do for their houses. Mine was still standing, and so they were taking water out of my duck pond and putting my porch out, and they saved my house.
Aside from Beth's and one other, all of the homes on her street have been turned to ash. While she is struggling with survivor's guilt, Beth tells me she's using her good fortune to support her neighbors however she can.
We're not just a community anymore. We're a family. This is a family, and we will forever be intertwined because you can't live through something like this and not.
Well, as the week progressed, some people across the South had relief in the form of rain. Unfortunately, crews are battling multiple wildfires still. They're along the East Coast and forcing evacuations in several states. NBC's Kathy Park is in Pickens, South Carolina, where crews are still battling those flames.
This morning, the race to contain wildfires from New Jersey to the Carolinas is being hampered by dry conditions and strong winds.
This has been going all the time, you know.
Overnight, a blaze burning at Table Rock State Park in South Carolina, growing to more than 1,000 acres. As crews tackle the tough terrain with critical water drops from the air.
This is an unusually high fire occurrence fire season than we've had in quite a while.
In neighboring North Carolina, 3 active wildfires are burning, triggering mandatory evacuations in the western part of the state.
We called in multiple fire departments to come assist us.
Officials warning residents living close to the flames to leave now or risk being trapped, even killed. Those fires hitting areas still recovering from Hurricane Helene 6 months ago. Farther up the East Coast in New Jersey, a wildfire that erupted Saturday in Wharton State Forest is now largely contained, but not before flames scorch more than 2,300 acres. And the fires aren't the only wild weather. In Mississippi, 2 possible tornadoes touching down on Sunday. This twister visible from the road in Rolling Fork. Back in South Carolina, with the wildfires not letting up, officials hope they'll get a little help from Mother Nature.
Any type of moisture in this situation will be helpful to put the fire in a safe place.
From strong winds and red flag conditions blasting across parts of New Mexico and West Texas to blizzard conditions and thunder snow reported in Omaha, winter threw everything it had on its way out the door, with the Midwest catching most of it. Thursday was the first day of spring, and winter storm alerts stretched from Kansas to Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Blizzard conditions brought traffic to a standstill on Colorado highways Wednesday morning. Several highways between Denver and Colorado Springs were shut down due to the winter weather. Colorado drivers were stranded on highways as strong winds led to low visibility. Colorado was not the only place facing the wrath of Old Man Winter. You're looking at whiteout conditions from inside a Kansas State Troopers patrol car. The Kansas Department of Transportation closed parts of I-70 due to the accumulating snow and strong winds. Officials urged residents to avoid non-essential travel due to the low visibility and slick roads. And winter weather made travel in Nebraska difficult to impossible. According to the Nebraska Department of Transportation, I-80 between Lincoln and Lexington was closed early Wednesday morning. In addition to multiple road closures across the state, residents also faced whiteout conditions, crashes, high winds, fallen trees, and down power lines. Well, Hurricanes Helene and Milton from last year were destructive Category 4 storms that caused severe flooding and over 40 deaths in Florida. Recovery is ongoing, with many still dealing with flood damage and rebuilding efforts. Last Tuesday, President Donald Trump signed an executive order to enhance disaster preparedness and response by transferring responsibilities from FEMA to state local governments. The order is part of Trump's plan to place more responsibility for disaster response to states and away from the federal agency. According to the White House official, it will deliver on the president's commitment to shift power from Washington to the American people. The order calls for a review of all infrastructure, continuity, and preparedness and response policies in order to update and simplify federal approaches. The federal government is attempting to reinstate probationary employees who were fired at NOAA. More than 600 NOAA workers were laid off more than 2 weeks ago. NOAA had already halted several services because of staffing issues following the cuts, including some weather balloon launches that are critical to support accurate weather forecasting. But last week, a federal judge in Maryland issued a temporary restraining order blocking the firing of thousands of workers across agencies and ordering them to be reinstated. In a court filing, the Commerce Department confirmed it had reinstated more than 791 workers in total across its agencies, including NOAA. It's still unclear whether some of the forecasting services provided by NOAA will resume. That is all for this week's Weather Impacts Report. Remember, when the skies turn severe, stay prepared and stay safe. Weather can change in an instant, but we'll all face it together, no matter what Mother Nature throws our way. I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss.